Hello again, listeners. I'm Sharita Knobloch, once again, your Army Wife Network commander. And nope, this isn't AWTR deja vu, but you are hearing another interview from me in this episode because we have an extra special resource to share with you today. Army Wife Network supporter and sponsor First Command Financial Services would like to share some insight on how to financially respond to all things COVID-19 from a military family perspective. So for this special feature, I'm so privileged to talk with Mr. Mark Steffi, President and CEO of First Command Financial Services. Mark joined First Command Financial Services in March 2010. He served several field and home office roles within the company, including Chief Operating Officer. In 2020, Mark accepted the role of President and Chief Executive Officer. In this position, Mark leads the company on a number of important strategic priorities, including the continuous improvement of the First Command client experience, focusing on military engagement, the continuing adaptation to a rapidly evolving digital world, and leadership development. Before joining First Command, Mark served in a number of leadership roles with major companies in the financial services industries, including TIAA, formerly TIAA-CREF, and UBS Financial Services, formerly PaineWebber. Mark earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in Finance from the University of Illinois, graduating with high honors. He holds Series 7, 8, 23, 63, and 65 securities registration, plus life and health insurance licenses. Thank you so much for making time in your schedule to join us on this special feature interview, Mark.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm so excited to dive in and get some feedback and learn a little bit more about First Command and how military families can be financially responsible during this time. So talk to us as we start here about some things we can do as family now to be smart about our finances.
From a savings perspective, there's a handful of things I'd recommend. The first one is sit down by yourself or with your spouse or significant other and review your budget and really start to understand where your money goes and what you're spending your money on. And I think at times like these, we start to realize the nice to haves from the have to haves. And if you're looking to save money, there's probably some nice to haves that, maybe we don't really need, at least for the next few weeks. And you might find that you don't need them for the long term either.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that, has kind of, I guess, if there's a silver lining in all this, some of the benefits, with gas prices have come down quite a bit and people aren't driving nearly as much anyway. Things like dining out or going to the movies, those expenses are gone. I'm on a lot of Zoom calls and I'm seeing people aren't getting nearly as many haircuts these days and like that. So those are some big ones, just to start capturing those expense reductions and making sure that you understand the money you're saving and that you used to spend on those things and start tucking that away into a savings account. I'd also encourage people to look at monthly subscriptions, things that, get hit our credit card every month that we just sort of forget to pay attention to, whether that's a subscription to magazines or subscription to gym subscriptions are a great one. So, or memberships, right? And so gyms are closed, but that doesn't mean people or the gyms aren't still hitting your credit card for those monthly fees. And if you're not going, you probably don't want to be paying. So you could at least suspend that for a while. Debt consolidation loans are a big thing. People tend to have 2 or 3 credit cards possibly, and they're running up balances there. And with interest rates coming down so much, there's an opportunity to take those high interest rate credit cards and refinance them into a single debt consolidation loan that will typically carry a much lower interest rate. So you can save a lot of money just lowering your interest rate on what you're paying on the credit cards, for instance. Refinancing your mortgage, if you've got the opportunity to that, if you own a home and it's been a while since you've refinanced your mortgage rates have come down significantly. So that's worth taking a look at. Unlike the financial crisis of 2008, I'm seeing a lot of banks and credit unions stepping up and offering assistance that they've never offered, or that they weren't in a position to offer in 2008 when the banks were in a much tougher financial position. But over the last 12 years or so, they've really shored up their capital requirements and are in a much better position and are really stepping up to offer support to their customers as well. You see auto manufacturers, postponing payments, reducing interest charges, those sorts of things. So I would explore every one of those things, and you might come to find that there's a lot more savings at your fingertips than you might have originally thought, and which I think one of the comforting factors is it starts to put people in a position where they feel like they've got a little bit more control over their situation than to have everything dictated to them. And I think that alone, just from a mental standpoint, helps people feel more secure and more confident with what's going on. And the final piece I'd tell you is the CARES Act checks that have been that are sent out or being sent out. The government would really love to see people take that money and spend it and stimulate the economy. And I get that. And that's important for all of us to have a strong, healthy economy. But the first economy you've got to take care of is the one right at home. And so if that money is better spent in savings, or if it's better spent paying down credit card debt or putting towards your mortgage or a car payment, instead of running right out and buying a brand new TV or burning the money some other way, just make sure that you're applying that money however it fits your personal situation best.
Yeah, I think viewing this season, this situation, in the light of the suggestions you just shared, reflecting on what you actually spend money on and is it truly necessary now or in the long run, and different opportunities to invest and save, I think that really helps us to transition our mindset from feeling very deprived, because right now can feel very much like deprivation, and instead, as you mentioned, the shift in mindset, it helps us to become more empowered, which is really what we want to do here at Army Wife Network. So I think from a financial viewpoint, those are really solid tips to transition from deprivation or being deprived to being empowered. That's really great.
Agreed. I completely agree. I think that feeling of empowerment is so important to us all. And hopefully those tips help put people in that position.
So speaking of tips, thinking about our kids right now, now and long term, what tips do you have for teaching our kids about savings?
Boy, this is a good time. I mean, it's I can tell you, my wife and I have 5 kids between us, and so I've never seen my kids with more time. They don't have after school activities, they don't have sports, the extracurricular stuff that they used to get involved in. They're seeing their friends far less frequently and far fewer of them than we ever have in the past. So for us, a silver lining in all of this is we're actually getting more time with the kids. But in that time, it's a great time to sit down and teach kids, about saving money and the importance of putting money aside for situations like this. And all those tips that I just shared, not every parent is going to be comfortable sharing everything about their budget, but instead of sharing the entire budget with the kids, you can start sharing them with them and help them be part of the decisions you're making. Do we eliminate this from our monthly budget? Could we do on less than this? If you're going to cancel a subscription or two, talk to them about what you're doing, why you're doing it. And as much as you feel comfortable pulling your children into the same discussions we just had about how we can empower families to be more in control of their finances, I would encourage families to do that. It makes it, trying to teach my own kids about money when it's just a concept, right? They don't have a real reference point. It's harder for them to understand that and grasp exactly what you're teaching them or why. But if you can apply it to your exact personal situation and it becomes more real for them, and I think they'll grasp it better, and I think it'll stick more. And those will be lessons. They'll remember this, right? This won't be, well, let's hope, you keep saying, unemployment is higher than it's ever been, and it's gone faster than all the way back to the Great Depression. So in some ways, and I'm not comparing this to the Great Depression, but in some ways there are certain things that reflect that era, and people remember for the rest of their lives the lessons they learned during the Great Depression or during the 2008 financial crisis. We and our children will remember these times forever, and the lessons you teach them now, I'm willing to bet will stick with them literally for the rest of their lives.
I think talking openly to our kids about finances, of course, with some wisdom, with some boundaries, but just some level of self-disclosure and working through that takes away a lot of the intimidation factor and the stigma of handling finances responsibly. Being, I didn't grow up in a household with conversations like that. It was, we just don't talk about it. And so becoming an adult, I was like, I want to be responsible, but I literally have no idea. So I think you're right on the money. Pun intended. Oh man, that just came out of nowhere. But I think you're right on the money with, talking to our kids, especially in the season where it's like, okay, let's make some adjustments and we're going to be okay. It really, really equips them for the future.
I think too, if you make them part of that process and they get to be, included in the discussion, hey, we've got 2 or 3 things we might want to cut out. Let's talk about which one's going to go. it just includes them in the decision, and they learn more and they feel like they've contributed to the family as well. And as crazy as it sounds, it's just more time you get to spend with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's time you wouldn't have had in the past because we're all so busy and not working from home, and they're off doing their activities and so on.
Yeah, it cultivates maybe a family team
Yeah,
mentality instead of the us versus them, parents versus the kids. I can't believe mom
exactly.
and dad cut this, but be like, here's why, or I had say in this decision, to do what's best for our family in this season. That's really,
Exactly.
really solid. So I mentioned a couple seconds ago, just thinking about finances in general seems intimidating, at least from my perspective when
Yep.
I grew up. So tell us about the services and offerings that First Command creates for service members. Is there a charge to meet with an advisor, and what can they expect when they meet with a
No,
financial advisor?
I'm really glad you asked that. We have a very specific financial planning process that we try to work through with each one of our clients, especially our new clients. On the front end, we literally just try to take the time to get to know our potential new clients, and do they believe this would be, will we be a good fit for them? Will they be a good fit for us? And really make sure that we're going to gel. Then, assuming the person or the couple wants to move forward, first thing we would do is sit down and really understand the person's goals and dreams and where they are today and what they're trying to accomplish financially as they go forward, what type of risk they're comfortable taking, and all those sorts of things. And that helps us establish not only the baseline, but to really establish where you're trying to go 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. From all that information, our advisors will then create a financial plan for the prospective client, and then that person or that family will come back for a second meeting, and the advisor will deliver that financial plan to the family. Up until that point, what's great about our process is there is no cost or no obligation all the way through that plan delivery. So
Mm-hmm.
if you get that plan in your hands and you say, well, this is great, but maybe I'm just not ready to do something about this yet, there's no cost or no obligation for that. But if they say, you know what, this makes a whole lot of sense to us, and I see your recommendations, and we're ready to move forward with those recommendations, then whatever fees or commissions that come with the solutions that are implemented into that financial plan, those normal fees and commissions would apply. But the fact that we do not charge ever an active duty military family for the financial planning process or the financial plan that we deliver to them is something that I think goes a long way in the military market. Years ago, we actually did charge. So if you wanted a financial plan delivered to you, there was a fee for that. And several years ago, we got away from that. And the reason we did is we found it was too much of a barrier to entry for too many military families. Too many military families think financial planning is either too expensive for them to afford, or that they don't have enough money for a planner to want to work with them. And for us, we've tried to take both of those away. So no longer do we charge for the financial plan itself, which has helped more people get on a path to financial success. The other issue that we've addressed is this whole issue of I don't have enough money. And there is no minimum to work with First Command. You'll find a lot of financial services companies out there that have, minimums in the tens of thousands of dollars, for instance. And we're very happy to start with clients that have very little or no money. The first step with them is we have to get them out of credit card debt. Too often we find military families have 10 or 15 or $20,000 in credit card debt. And the first thing we have to do is help them refinance that debt. Like we talked about earlier, get that interest rate down, start paying off of that debt, and then start with a small investment plan of $50 or even $100 a month, or a small insurance plan to get them the level of insurance they need. So not only are we happy to work with those small amounts in the military, that's often the place we find ourselves, is working with very small investment amounts, insurance amounts, paying off credit card debt, and getting people on a much better financial path. And maybe that's the third point I'd make too, Sharita, is, is there a charge for the financial plan? No. Do I have enough money? We do not have a minimum. What we often say is, we don't chase wealth at First Command. We actually help people build it. But the third piece that often keeps people away is boy, my finances are a mess and I'm kind of embarrassed and I don't really want to go in and have to confront this. I would just implore people to not let that be a barrier to going down and sitting with a financial advisor. If you think yours is a mess, we've probably seen worse, and we're not there to judge people, right? We're really there to help. They often say the best time to start building your financial plan was yesterday. And if you didn't do it yesterday, the second best time is today. And the sooner you get on that, the better you're going to be for the long term. And you mentioned the word empowerment earlier. Personally, I don't think from a financial standpoint, there's anything more empowering than sitting down and developing, with you and your significant other, what your roadmap is going to be to get you to financial security over some period of time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I don't want to make this interview all about me, but, my husband and I just 10 months ago, I think, got connected with First Command here in El Paso. And initially I was like, oh man, I don't even know, like, what's he going to say? And holy cow, George has been so good to us as far as help, like teaching us things, but he just knows his stuff. He's prior service, so he gets the military. He gets the, like him, and I feel like George Benter and my husband could be BFFs. Even though there's a couple decades of age separating them, they are just like hardcore and intentional, but still so gracious. So George has let us go at our own pace, and he shoots high, and then we're like, I don't know if we can pull that off, and so he'll pull back, and he's so authentic, and we have just we're on the path now, and really feeling a whole lot more empowered and less like intimidating and overwhelmed with that. And we got connected with First Command through your relationship with Army Wife Network, because I didn't even know you guys really existed and all the great things you do until you partnered with us. So that's been really, really cool for our family, and we're excited to see where that goes, because we just feel like you guys are in our corner, which is awesome.
That is so great to hear. I'm not surprised, but I can't tell you how great it makes me feel to hear that. George is an excellent advisor. Our office out there at Fort Bliss is outstanding. So many former military people and so many passionate people there. And we've got roughly 500 advisors around the world and 80 district advisors that support them. And 80% of our field force is either former military or military spouses themselves. So you say they could be BFFs. There is an immediate, as you well know, immediate credibility and an immediate understanding and empathy for the challenges that military families face. And that connection goes a long way. That trust goes a long way. And the fact, and something I probably should have mentioned earlier, the fact that our advisors understand the military benefits so well. So you talk about empowerment. I mean, how many military families don't understand and therefore take advantage of all the benefits they have available to them, well-deserved benefits. But if somebody doesn't sit down with them and explain, here's what this is, and here's how it works, and here's how you want to use it to your benefit, a lot of those benefits go unused, and that's a shame. And so for me, it's sort of like leaving free money on the table if you don't take advantage of it. And to have somebody that can not only explain them to you, but show you how to leverage those benefits is another big win, I think.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And we've seen that from our relationship with the First Command office here at Fort Bliss, and George's commitment to help us sign paperwork social distance wise. Like, he's came to our house and met us across the driveway, like put papers down, let us sign, following all the rules and regs, but just like, let's make this happen for you guys. So
that's great. We're trying to do as much as we can electronically and make it easier for everybody, clients and advisors. And we've added, it's funny when you're pressed, people get real creative on how we can find more ways to do more electronic work, quicker than we ever have. But every once in a while, it still requires a face-to-face interaction, even if that face-to-face is 6 feet or more away. But it's great to see that moving forward, and we're doing everything we can to make sure people get on and stay on that path of financial success, even through this pandemic.
You mentioned just a couple of moments ago talking about hiring a lot of prior service and military spouses, and looking at military spouses and sometimes the barriers to employment that we sometimes face. Tell us a little bit more about the hiring process, or what you guys at First Command are doing with hiring military spouses in your organization.
Yeah, we are a big fan of hiring military spouses. I think up front, we often hear from folks, boy, I didn't go to school and get a finance degree, and I never thought about being a financial advisor. Is that possible? And what we tell them is, if you have a passion or love for serving the military, and virtually every military spouse does, and a strong work ethic, then we will literally teach you everything else you need to know. And for us, with military spouses being highly educated, hardworking, many of them, or by far most of them, are making the majority of the family's financial decisions already. So they They understand the issues. They empathize with the challenges that military families face. Military spouses are incredibly resilient. And many of them, from what I've seen and what we've seen, are looking for careers, not just jobs. And too often when the economy hits a rough patch like we have now, the jobs that military spouses are in are quickly the ones that are eliminated first. And therefore, that puts a strain on military families. But with such high unemployment and underemployment, we are always looking to hire military spouses because, again, all the reasons I mentioned, and they have an immediate market, right? Because they're well connected to other military spouses. They're highly trusted. That I don't have to tell you how well networked military spouses are, and it just presents an opportunity, a sort of a natural market for them to go out and to grow their business. And what really excites us is this is really an opportunity for military spouses to improve the lives of other military families by continuing to serve those who serve. And while they're serving others, our advisor spouses are also pursuing financial security for their own families. Mm-hmm. So this ends up being a career where you can do really well by doing good. And I think that's a huge attraction for our military spouse advisors. And it's probably no surprise they tend to be some of our best performing advisors because of the natural market and the trust they have and the work ethic that they bring to the position. We have about 180 offices around the world. The vast majority of them are near a military installation. And whatever skills you develop in one First Command office are completely transferable to another First Command office. So as our military families are PCSing, from one location to the other, our military spouses can take those skills and transfer them to the next location. And so it really ends up becoming a career that's transportable as opposed to getting, one job in this location, a different job with a different company in another location, and so on and so on. And that's been a big attraction for our military spouses. And we've got positions as advisors, as associate financial advisors, as administrative assistants, as office managers. So if being an advisor isn't right up your alley and you'd like more of a support position, we tend to have those opportunities in all those offices as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a win for everybody involved, for you guys, for mil spouses, for their families. And yeah, so any AWTR listeners out there interested in employment opportunities, look up First Command. I can vouch that they are a great company and very supportive, and they're out for excellence. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you, Sharina.
Well, Mark, as we get ready to wrap up our special feature time together, would you be willing to share with us a favorite budgeting or just a personal finance tip that you've developed over the years?
The one I would give you right now is don't panic. And I know that might sound a little cliche. I hate to admit it, but I've been in this business almost 30 years now. And while every one of these crises are different, to me, they always end up the same. We always work our way through them. We always seem to come together and band together and work our way through them. People go back to work, the markets start to go back up. When will that happen and how aggressively will that happen? No one really knows for sure, but this will pass. And if you can find ways to stay focused and empower yourselves to go through all those savings tips that we mentioned, to look at your financial plan, review it, or to build it for the first time and really take control of your personal financial situation. Don't panic. As you said when we started, Sharita, or earlier when we were talking, maybe a silver lining in all this. There have been too many government shutdowns where the military was threatened to not get their pay, or then the last one when the Coast Guard didn't get their pay. At least on the military side, our military men and women are still collecting a paycheck, which is great. At least even if both spouses aren't collecting an income right now, at least one of them still is. Mm-hmm. And this will pass and people will go back to work. So stay empowered, stay positive, don't panic, and we're going to get through this. And as usual, we're going to come out stronger on the other end.
I can't think of a better way to end this very special and important interview. Just the word of encouragement and empowerment of, hey, we're in this together, hunker down, tighten your belt a little, crouch over, let's ride through this storm and we will all come out the other side, possibly even better off than when we started. Who knows? So,
yep.
Well, Mark, as we do close this out, can you let our listeners know where they can go to find even more empowering information about creating a financial plan, specifically with First Command?
Yep, just hit our website at www.firstcommand.com. Firstcommand.com. On there, we've got places where you can go to get to look into how you start your financial plan. There's a section called Getting Started. There's a career section on there, and just I think today, in fact, we're announcing our COVID-19 Resource Center, where we've got information from our chief investment officer, articles around those things, articles around mental health while you're staying at home, how to avoid scams that are popping up all over the place because of COVID-19. I've got a client letter or two on there, but all of our COVID-19 coronavirus information all in one place in the Coronavirus Resource Center. So lots of great information there. Our team in the home office has been doing a great job getting great information out and putting it all in one place. And I'd really encourage folks to take a look at it because I think you'll find it very helpful.
Absolutely. And I noticed that you guys had, I don't know if I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I was like, oh, they have stuff about mental health, about help for homeschooling. It's not just financial stuff, but you guys have really branched out and providing a wide variety of resources for us during this challenging time within our nation, country, world. So we're really grateful for that. And Mark, I just so appreciate you making time in your schedule because I know you are a busy, busy man as CEO of First Command. And I just thank you for sharing these resources with our listeners. As I mentioned, husband and I, we've been working with First Command for probably the last 10 months or so. And it has made such a difference already. We joke about we're adulting. We feel like such grown-ups now, and First Command is helping us with that.
Good deal. Well, thank you for having me on. It was my pleasure and privilege to be here. I can't thank you enough for having me. And I'll just say, as I sign off, stay safe to everyone, and we'll get through this.
Thank you so much, Mark. Listeners, I encourage you to go ahead and get connected with First Command Financial Services, both in person, perhaps in an office. Call first because they might be closed, but they're still available online through their website, firstcommand.com. And you can also connect with them on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at First Command. You can also reach out to Mark on LinkedIn by searching Mark Steffe. Last name is spelled Steffe. Thank you guys so much. And now, I've always wanted to say it, back to the studio with our host.
Such empowering financial information. Thank you, First Command team. Remember, if you would like to tap into their resources, connect with them online at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at First Command and on LinkedIn at Mark Steffe.